You're listening to Soap Dirt, the latest in television entertainment news.
Hey, YNR fans. So I've spent some time thinking about it, and I believe Sharon Newman has a lot more going on inside her head than just a bipolar spiral. And I think Phyllis Summers may wind up looking like a villain because she is harassing a very sick woman. It's Belynda from Soap Dirt, and I suspect a wild twist may be coming on the CBS soap. It could be more than the mental health storyline that it looks like right now. So please click subscribe if you're not following us. And remember, a lot of people have been very critical with Josh Griffith doing multiple mental health storylines. This one may not actually be one. So we have seen Sharon in bipolar spirals before on The Young, the Restless, but this one's been pretty different. For one, she's been seeing dead Cameron Kirsten since July? Sharon is having full-on visual and auditory hallucinations. She's having conversations with Camryn and other imaginary people. Sharon's also been seeing her dead daughter, Cassie Newman. And then there's the hallucination of Nick, who's been kissing and comforting her and that she thinks is trying to reunite with her. And Sharon's been blacking out and losing time. I mean, I'm obviously not a doctor, but I did a little research, and the type of total blackouts and time loss that Sharon has, that's not typical with bipolar. Also, remember, Mariah checked Sharon's medication, and she verified that based on the date it was filled and the number of pills left in the bottle, her mom is taking her meds. And Nick knows Sharon's been attending therapy. In fact, Nick has even driven her to therapy sessions himself, so he knows she's been going. She's doing the things that she's supposed to do to keep her bipolar in check. So that's why I'm wondering if this is not a bipolar spiral at all, and maybe something a lot scarier for her health. Something that would explain why Sharon killed Heather Stevens and doesn't remember it. Something that would allow her to get off without spending one day behind bars. And it's something that would make Phyllis look like the bad guy for terrorizing and accusing her, right? So I do think Sharon and her family thought she was in a bipolar spiral. So she got new medication, as she told Nick and the others, but still Sharon continues to hallucinate Camryn. That doesn't add up. That doesn't make sense. You know, new meds means he should be gone. Plus, Sharon is experiencing these fugue states where she blacks out and she doesn't know what happened, like when she woke up and saw dead Heather. So with the new meds, none of that would happen. But there's another medical issue that would absolutely explain it, something that would tie into a recent health condition of Sharon's. So this week on Tuesday's episode, during a confrontation with Phyllis, you're going to see Sharon getting dizzy. She's kind of feeling like she can't breathe. Her vision goes blurry around the edges, and then she has one of her blackout spells. And when she comes to, Chance is asking, "Are you okay?" Phyllis is right there accusing Sharon, telling Chance, arrest her. She's utterly unsympathetic to Sharon, and Chance wants Sharon to go to the hospital because of the dizziness, and she told him she's had several blackouts. Phyllis doesn't believe it, and Sharon refused to go. So that had me wondering what else could cause what we're seeing with her. And it reminded me of something that happened with a husband of a friend of mine. A few years back, he had a total personality flip, and he became this hostile rage monster. I mean, like a whole different person. It was radical and it was weird. And he did have some time loss. He would leave the house and not come back. He didn't know where he'd been. His wife thought maybe he was cheating. She just thought he was lying. It turns out he had a brain tumor, and it was putting pressure on the lobe in his brain that affected behavior and some other things, and it would cut off blood supply to certain parts of his brain and vision issues, just all kinds of stuff. So here's what I'm wondering, that Sharon may have a very serious physical medical condition, and it's been mistaken as a bipolar spiral because she shouldn't be seeing Camryn with these new meds, but a tumor can cause hallucinations, blackouts, and violence, and it absolutely could have caused her to lose control, to kill Heather, and just not even know what she did. And a tumor can cause impulse control issues that look like a bipolar spiral. And Sharon might not be in a bipolar spiral at all, but there's an assumption, and so they didn't look for something else. Remember, it wasn't that long ago, Sharon had breast cancer. So it could have returned, it could have spread to her brain, and it could have caused all of this because several of her symptoms just don't jive with bipolar. And a brain tumor would absolutely explain her blacking out at Heather and Daniel's apartment, doing something very out of character like bludgeoning Heather to death, and then coming out of that fugue state with no idea or memory of what she had done, panicking and trying to cover it up rather than calling the police. Meanwhile, we have Phyllis frantic about Daniel losing Heather and, of course, him being framed for the murder. And while I think Phyllis is absolutely correct that Sharon did kill Heather, I think she's wrong when she says Sharon is playing victim. I do think Sharon might be a victim of something terrible and just doesn't know it. And I know there's some conspiracy theories floating that Lucy did this, but no. There is nothing pointing to Heather's daughter killing her. Lucy has never shown one sign of violence. She loved her mother. She had an alibi. There's just too much. Sharon was right there when it happened. Do you know the theory of Occam's razor? The simplest explanation is usually what it is, and that points to Heather's killer being Sharon. But maybe, just maybe, Josh Griffith wrote this in such a way that Sharon cannot be prosecuted and sent away for 20 to life for murdering Heather. If Sharon has a brain tumor because her cancer's back and it's spread, or it's new cancer, and she wasn't in control of her actions, she might need not spend a day in jail, not even a day in Fairview. If there's a medical explanation and they cut out the tumor, confirm that her brain's healthy again, then Sharon's lawyer would plead what's called diminished capacity. And then they bring in the before brain scans to show the tumor, and then they bring in the after to show her brain's okay now. And the lack of premeditation, which is planning, that would help her case. Plus Sharon's lack of memory of the crime plays into her favor as part of the defense. And, you know, the bottom line, even if Sharon had a giant orange-sized tumor in her head, Phyllis would still want to see Sharon locked up because Phyllis despises Sharon and she hates that she's framed Daniel. And as a mom, you know, you get that. I get that, right? And I can't ever see Phyllis showing her sympathy just because of these things that have happened to her family. And just to be very clear, this is my theory based on what I'm observing on the show and then the research that I did and actually a real life experience that a friend of mine went through. This is not a spoiler. I'm not saying this is a fact. I'm saying what if Sharon has a brain tumor because a lot of this stuff is not symptoms of bipolar disorder. So I'm not saying she definitely does, but it would explain what she did, why she did it, why she doesn't remember, and how in the end Sharon can get away with killing Heather without going to prison or a psych hospital. And once she's treated and it's cut out and her brain's okay, she can go back to her life, even once Phyllis succeeds in exposing her. So we'll see how it goes. But a brain tumor absolutely would explain why Sharon is still spiraling despite faithfully taking her medications and going to therapy, yet we still see Camryn lurking.
Thank you for being a loyal listener. Follow us wherever you get your podcast because you don't want to miss the next episode. Soap Dirt is on all the major podcast platforms, including Apple Podcast, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and more.